As Jody said, what we're going to be looking at today is the Sage Managed Payroll Solution. What you can see on the screen is the home page. This is what you'll see when you first log in to Sage Payroll. Sage Payroll Managed Payroll Services is a web-based solution, so you access it from any web browser. On this home page, down the left, you can see the status of your pay runs. I have a couple of open pay runs that I'm working in. The next scheduled pay run comes off of your defined pay calendar. We support any of the standard pay frequencies, including weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly, monthly, or quarterly. Over here on the right, you can see messages. These are messages that come from Sage. We have the ability to post messages for our clients to see, but it really is just informational. Maybe a new feature coming out in the system or an upcoming banking holiday that we want to send everyone a reminder of, but really nothing you would ever need to respond to or take any action on. Down below you have reports. These are standard reports available within the system. You have the ability to come in and run these reports at any time. This would include historical payroll information. There's quite a few employee reports. To run any of the reports, you just click on the report title and it will open a page with parameters for you to be able to for you to be able to tell the system what data you want on the report. The parameters are specific to each report, and you can select, in this example, for the employee list, we would select the employees we wanted to include by employee status. There also are sorting and grouping options in this report, and all reports can be viewed in PDF, and many can also be viewed in Excel. When we generate a report in Excel, the system does use the columns and the rows on the Excel spreadsheet, which just gives you the ability to manipulate the report once it's been created if you need to. In addition to the standard reports, you also will get a package of payroll reports when you submit your pay run, and we'll take a look at those a little bit later. If we come up and take a look at the employee information, this is where you'll see all of your employee data loaded into the system. This is something that Sage will take care of during your implementation, loading all of your current active employees as well as anyone who's been paid in the current calendar year. We do load all of that current year history so that at the end of the year we can generate your W-2s for you. You, after you go live, would come in to add new employees using the Add New link at the bottom of the page, and this will just walk you through the required pages on the employee profile to get a new employee set up and ready for payroll. When you add a new employee, we default their status to New Hire Pending, and that is our indication that this person needs to be reported to the state. We do the state new hire reporting for you, and as soon as we've reported this employee, we'll change his status to active. We can still pay him even though he's at a new hire pending status. The filters at the top allow you to search for different employees, and when you find the person that you need to work with, you just click on their name to go into their employee profile. Now that we're in Jennifer's profile, All of these pages down the left relate to Jennifer. It's from demographics down to direct deposit that the Add New wizard will take you through. These really are your required pages, and then we have some optional pages that we can take a quick look at this afternoon as well. The demographics page is where you'll see personal information as well as contact information for your new employee. The employment page is all about Jennifer as an employee. We can process both W-2s and 1099s through payroll. Just need to designate which payee type an employee is, and then some additional information you can track includes job title, whether this person is a supervisor, possibly who they report to, and over here on the right, the department typically drives where their pay gets charged in the general ledger. We do have the ability to update the general ledger for Sage 50 and Sage 100 customers, and we will automatically create the journal entries and give you the ability to sync that data over into your Sage general ledger. In addition to the department, you also have the ability to track division, location, and organization. These codes are primarily used for reporting purposes. So in the standard reports, when you have sorting and grouping options, you can typically select using any of these optional codes. On the rates and salaries page, this is where you will update and tell us how much this employee is paid. Employees are classified as either hourly or salaried, and down here in the amounts section, you'll see the amounts that they get paid. Your hourly people will have rates on the rates tab. Employees can have multiple rates if they get paid different amounts for different types of work that they do. Salaried employees will have a pay period salary amount, and this will be converted to an annual total in the header section of this page. All of your rates and salaries are tracked by effective date, which gives you the ability to enter future dated changes if needed. If we knew Jennifer was getting an increase on April 1st, we could come in and add a new salary as of April 1st, and it would just sit there until the payroll that included that date, and then it would start paying the employee the new amount. All of your rate and salary changes are automatically tracked in history and visible on the salary history page. The withholding status for federal, state, and any local taxes are managed on the taxes page. Any deductions that you need to take out of your employee's check are defined during your implementation. Your conversion specialist will set up any required deduction codes with all of the required attributes, including things like if the deduction is pre-tax or after-tax, what the calculation method is, and also what pay period of the month the deduction comes out of the employee's check. And the last required page is the direct deposit instructions. If you're offering direct deposit to your employees and they have, you can set this up. You can see that Jennifer has 2 accounts. She has $200 going into savings and the remainder going into her checking account. There is no limit to the number of accounts that you can define for a client. Or for, I'm sorry, for an employee. In addition to those required pages, we have some optional information, including allocations. This has to do with how pay is charged in the general ledger. And you can see in this example, 75% of Jennifer's pay goes to finance and 25% to the warehouse. This is a fixed allocation of pay, and the system will automatically split her pay out into these two general ledger departments. Amounts can also be split when you enter the pay run. So if someone works in different departments but it's not a fixed allocation, you can enter it as part of payroll. And I know coming up there will be a future webinar on the Sage Time solution, which will also be able to allocate time. There is a place to track employee dependents. This is optional information. If you'd like to track that, you can, as well as the I-9 information. This just gives you a place to track the documents used to verify eligibility to work. And then we also have the ability to set up any custom fields. If there are any additional fields that you need to track data for your employees, we can define those by category and the specific fields you would like to track. If you offer your employees sick or vacation time, we can set up your plans, which can include an accrual every pay period if they accrue time based on how long they've been with the organization or possibly based on hours worked. We could also grant them a certain number of hours at the beginning of the year or on their anniversary date instead of setting it up as an accrual. We'll define your carryover rules. So if is the employee allowed to carry time over at the end of the year, or is it a use it or lose it? And then the amount taken year to date and the remaining balance are both printed on the employee's pay stub. If we come down here to the View Check Data, you'll be able to see all of the check history for this employee through as many years as you've been processing payroll. So we don't ever purge this data. It's always available for you. And just by clicking on any of the pay lines, you can access a pay stub. The pay stub comes up in a PDF view and includes company information in the upper right, earnings, taxes, deductions in the center, and down here at the bottom you can see the leave balances included on the pay stub, and if this were a check you would just see the net pay amount, but since Jennifer has direct deposit you can see the distribution of the checks. Employees on direct deposit can also have a login to the system for them to be able to access their pay information. And in addition to that, the system can also send out text messages, just letting the employee know the net amount of their deposit and the last 4 digits of the bank account number. The text messages go out the day before the check date at whatever time you specify, and it just lets the employee know the amount scheduled for the next day. Employees that receive checks, their stub will be attached to the check when they receive it. It's the pay view that an employee on direct deposit uses to be able to log in and see their pay history. Most employees will only see the Pay View tab. Only if they have some other responsibility in the payroll area will they see any of these additional tabs when they log in. And after the end of the year, they can see their W-2s. This information, the stub information, can also be accessed through a mobile device. And it is optimized for mobile, so it's not just pulling up a PDF on their phone. Let's come in and take a look at how you'll process a payroll. I'm going to access this open pay run. When you come into an open pay run, you come in on a pay grid. The pay grid will show all of your employee information, and across the top of the pay grid, you have different earnings categories. These will be set up during your implementation based on your specific needs. I have a couple of hours-based codes for my hourly employees, as well as a vacation and sick code, which is used for both hourly and salaried employees. The salary column is used to automatically default in salaried employees' pay, so that doesn't have to be entered every payroll. And in addition, this can be masked. If you have someone who is responsible for entering payroll that you don't want them to see the dollar amount, we can mask these amounts and it will just show up as stars. I have 2 additional dollars-based codes for commissions and bonuses, and even some non-taxable items for expense reimbursement and mileage. The setup of the earnings types is very configurable based on your specific needs. The pay grid is where you'll enter all of the information that you need to pay employees in this pay run, and information can be included in the pay grid a couple of different ways. The first thing I'll show you is how you can import hours. This could be an import file from a time clock that you might be using, or a point of sale terminal if you're a restaurant. So several different ways we can take data from an automated time collection and configure that to be able to import into payroll. When I come back to the pay grid, you'll see that all of my employees now have hours. If there were additional pay items that you needed to add to this payroll, you just click on an employee name. It loads them down here into the edit section of the pay grid, and you can add any additional information. Denver is one of my salespeople, so I'm going to tab over in the edit section and put in his commission. All I have to do is press enter on the keyboard, and it automatically saves that information and takes you to the next person on the list. Christina is eligible for a bonus. Jonathan also gets a commission. I don't need to make any changes to Kenneth. I'll just press enter and go down and add Jackie's bonus. Now, in addition to this, there could be people that maybe don't use the time collection process, and you just need to manually add hours for them. So I'm skipping down here to Chad, where I will enter his hours and his overtime. Anita worked 32 hours and took a day of vacation. Cliff worked 24 and was out sick a couple of days. And then I have a couple people that didn't work this pay period. So anything that you need to enter for payroll is entered in this pay grid. This also includes the ability to do one-time overrides. Anything included in this override section is just for this one payroll. And here you can override taxes, deductions, direct deposit, or your time off plans. But anything entered here is just for this one payroll. Once you have everything entered, you come up and use the Calculate button to calculate the gross to net amount for each of your employee payments. As soon as the system has finished calculating your checks, we'll provide you with a preliminary payroll register that you can use to verify that everything is correct. The pay grid can be organized in different ways to make your data entry easier. If you would like, we can organize this in department number order or location. You can see mine's organized just alphabetically by employee last name. I'm going to come up, and just under the checks calculated message is a reports drop-down where you can access the pre-commit register. The register will appear in the same order as your pay grid. So if you're entering hours by department, the report will be organized by department and will include department subtotals to help in the verification process. On this pre-commit register, there's a section for each employee, and it will show you the earnings as well as the calculated taxes, deductions, and net pay. We can see Denver's commission, Christina's bonus that was entered in addition to the hours that were imported for her. And I can scroll through and just make sure everything looks good on my register. At the very bottom of the report, you get a total section for the whole company. If you found any mistakes on your pre-commit report, you would come back over to the pay grid, make any additional changes, and then recalculate your checks, and you would get a new pre-commit register. You can do that as many times as you need to, up until 2 days before your check date, and that's when we'll need you to submit your pay run. Submitting the pay run is when our operations group takes over, and that's when we will print any checks that you might need and overnight those to you, so you'll have them for payday. We'll process your direct deposit file with the bank, prepare your payroll reports, prepare your journal entries. If you need the general ledger integration to Sage 50 or Sage 100, we also will pay all of the taxes on your behalf, do all of your tax filing, and at the end of the year, generate all of your W-2s. We print those and send them to you for you to be able to verify and then distribute to your employees. So you'll submit that payroll by 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2 days before your check date. The payroll reports that we generate are automatically archived up here on the front row Reports tab. We just default the last 30 days of reports, but you can expand these dates and access any information that you'd like. These reports will all be out here back to the very first payroll that you run on the Manage Payroll platform. The End of Period tab is where you'll see all of your quarterly tax filing reports. As we do your quarterly payroll taxes, we will archive those reports up here on the End of Period tab. From a general ledger perspective, for those of you that need that service, we can bring in your chart of accounts from Sage 50 or Sage 100, and then we'll map all of the different payroll components to the appropriate accounts. The payroll components include any deductions, earnings types, taxes, net pay, your bank accounts, and every payroll based on this mapping, we will create a record out here on the GL download page. You then will either go into Sage 50 or Sage 100, depending on what you're using, and initiate the synchronization of these journal entries over into your financial system. The reports that you get that we archive up here on the front row Reports tab can also be sent to you through an email. Anytime we email payroll reports, they are password protected. That's just to protect you, to make sure that if that email were to accidentally get forwarded to someone who shouldn't have access, that they would not be able to see your payroll data. The reports that you'll receive include a direct deposit report showing you all of the employee direct deposits that we process. You'll also receive a check reconciliation report. This will show you all of the checks that we print. When we print checks, we typically draw them on your bank account. So these would clear your account when the employees cash the checks. When we print checks, we overnight those to you so that you'll have them on payday. The cash analysis report will show you the total cash required for this pay run, and that's going to include the net amount of any checks that we print, and then these three EFT amounts: the net amount of your direct deposit, the service charge that you pay to Sage for the processing, and your total tax liability for the payroll. These three amounts will automatically be pulled from your payroll account at around midnight after you submit your payroll 2 days before your payday. The tax money we hold in escrow for you until the taxes are due, and then we pay them. You also will receive a final check register. This is just like the preliminary register we looked at for verification purposes, only now it includes voucher numbers and check numbers. You'll receive a deduction report, which will show you for each deduction code all of the employees that had that deduction and the dollar amount. For those employees getting direct deposit, you will receive a file with all of your direct deposit advices. If you wish to, you can print these and hand them out to your employees. They are non-negotiable, so you can print these on plain paper if you want to hand them out. You will receive an invoice. This just shows you for the service charge that you pay to Sage, what makes up that total. And finally, a tax liability report. This will show you for each taxing authority the tax amount that we calculated and the due date for the taxes. The service can include we'll take care of all your federal payroll taxes as well as your state and any local payroll taxes. I don't have any local examples here, but local taxes would be included. When we pay the taxes on the due date, we will also send a confirmation email letting you know that the taxes were paid. And we also do have an option to include a workers' comp report in the payroll reports if you need that. It does show all of your employees by workers' comp class code, their wages that they were paid in this payroll, any premium portion of any overtime is excluded automatically, and the system will automatically calculate your premiums. Will automatically calculate the premiums. In addition to this detail report, you also have a summary report available showing you summary hours by workers' comp class code. So that ends what I had planned to show you today. If anyone has any additional questions, I'd be happy to address those at this time.
Thank you very much. Just to mention, for the few people who were able to join us a little bit late, we do ask that you put your questions into the chat window, and we'll give you just a moment or so to do that in case we have any additional questions for the webinar today. We have one question. It has to do with when the funds are pulled. Can you just go over that once again, the timing of the funds being debited from the account for payroll processing?
Yes. The payroll, the deadline for submitting your payroll is 2 days before your check date by 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And then that night at around midnight, we will pull the funds for the net amount of your direct deposits, the service charge you pay to Sage, and your total taxes. Just another clarification, if you were going to, let's say you were going to be on vacation this week and you wanted to submit your payroll on Friday, the Friday before, but your normal submission date is Wednesday, you can submit your payroll early, but we still pull the funds based on your scheduled submission date. So we would not pull the funds until that Wednesday scheduled submission.
Okay, Cindy, thank you for answering that question. It doesn't look like we have any others at this time, so thank you again, Cindy Hollowell from Sage Payroll Services, for this informative webinar. We look forward to hearing from you. If any of the attendees today are interested in learning more about Sage Payroll Services, you can contact me. This is Jody Patterson with Oasis Solutions. My email address is jody@oasisky.com. I look forward to speaking with you. And Cindy, thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Jody.
Goodbye.